Yeah, I'm not too bad. It's kind of interesting how this conversation was sort of agreed upon because uh, there's a guy on Twitter that watches me. His name is Pascal Leroux, and he also watches you as well. And he sent a he tagged you. I was doing a stream on Thursday with one of my friends, and we were sort of doing a quote unquote trial of him and his views. And Pascal Leroux was talking in the chat, and one of the people in the stream, who's a famous sort of skeptic commentator called Crowden T, he was moderator in the chat, and he banned Pascal for being a fan of yours. So
Damn.
after he did that a second time, temp ban, 300-second ban from the chat, I took off him, but he got angry on Twitter. He tagged you on Twitter, and then you sort of formed a rapport with me. So I thought, why not have you on to have a conversation with? Because I know of you. I don't know a lot about what you've done, but I do know a fair bit about your recent history with regards to your interactions with the skeptic community. I've seen your interview with Sargon. I've seen a bit of your interview with Naked Ape, and I know that was cancer mostly because of Ape, to be honest. I've not actually seen the JonTron debate, but I know I kind of have the gist of what happened in that debate.
Sure.
And yeah, honestly, like I've seen a few of your videos today. I did a bit of swatting, and honestly, the first thing I can say is your video regarding how you conduct debates, like your sort of when you address that Reddit thread. I was really impressed with that because it really shows that despite you being a large YouTuber, you still sort of have a rapport with your fans. You're still willing to not only listen to your fans, but you're also willing to try and address your fans and make your point clear to your fans. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's kind of how I built my community initially, was fan interaction. So, and they kind of keep me honest on things.
Mm. And yeah, like that's something I expect. That's something I try to do with my audience. I try and interact with my audience. I try and get them on board with things. I'm sure we have disagreements on things as well, which we'll probably go into later in the stream. But I suppose, do you want to start on the DMCA issue? Because
Yeah,
that's
sure.
probably the biggest point of contention. So, for those of you not aware, Sargon. This is to do with Sargon. I myself have been critical on Sargon on a number of points. I've actually been on a live stream with Sargon. It was the stream before yours, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I was with Sargon, and we were sort of discussing general European politics at the time, like what was going on at the time, which was like the Dutch election and something with Erdogan and Marine Le Pen's policies. But basically, Sargon uploaded some clips from your interview with, your debate with JonTron, 4 clips, and he made it was about 4 clips, I believe, and they were sort of disparaging titles like. I can't remember what the exact titles were, but they were sort of disparaging towards you. And you, in retaliation, filed a DMCA against all 4 of those clips, which caused his the New Me Media channel to be
Yeah.
shut down. And he has then established a new second channel called The Thinkery, which he is no longer monetizing his videos. Here's my personal. I mean, do you want to sort of justify why you felt the need to do that before I sort of challenge you on that point, just to the audience?
Yeah, sure. Really, there's two different things that we're
Wowie.
talking about here, right? We've got the legal side, and then we've got the ethical or moral side. Just to make sure that we agree, firstly, on the legal side, I'm 100% on the right? Like, there is no real contention there, right? Or do you disagree with that?
What was that?
Do you so in when you're dealing with this kind of an issue, right? You've got kind of two different sides going on. You've got the legal side, and then you've got like the moral or ethical side, right?
Yeah.
As far as the legal side goes, I'm 100% in the right with like there's no contention there, right? Do you agree with that, or do you disagree with that?
Well, it's kind of a grey area, in my opinion. I do
All right, we'll
agree
start.
with you on that.
Let,
I agree with you on that personally myself, but I have heard that sort of fair use laws are kind of. I've spoken to actually Sargon personally about this, and he sort of thinks that those sort of laws are grey areas. But
Sure. So
myself, I
Sargon doesn't know how fair use works, and I wouldn't rely on him because that entire channel was built on abusing copyright of other people. So I wouldn't rely on anything that Sargon says. So for in the United States, now it might be different in the United Kingdom, but in the United United States, which is how YouTube runs most of its shit, fair use isn't like a law or like a thing that you kind of checkbox. Fair use is a defense that you use in court, and there are different types of criteria that things can meet in order to fit, fair use. Things like how transformative is the content, and by transformative I might mean like how much of the content comprises the amount of a video that you made. For instance, if you use a 20-second clip as part of a 5-minute piece of body of work, how important is that piece to the work? And there are lots of different checkboxes that you can go through to kind of say like, is this fair use, is it not fair use? So it's not like a hard and fast thing, right? Firstly, so let's look at some things that Sargon can do to make it fair use. There's actually a really good there's a really good example of this was the next video that he posted.
I'm just going to ask you now, because somebody asked me to ask you this question with regards to, would you have played, if Sargon had put commentary over the clip, say as if while you were debating JonTron, he would pause the video, he would then speak his mind on a certain subject, and then he would resume the video. Would you have claimed DMCA on that?
No, because that's his content, and he made a video just as much after I DMCA'd all of his that was made up, I think, almost entirely of my video, but he put commentary over it, and I think that's fine. It's his shit. Naked Abe has done just as much with his cancerous video, and then other people have done just as much, taking clips of plenty of people made videos about that where they cut clips from my stream and they talked over it, but that's fine. I mean, you're creating your own shit, you're putting effort into it. Like, I'm not going to sit there and DMCA somebody providing commentary over my stuff, but Sargon was literally straight ripping 30-second clips off of my YouTube video, putting it on his channel.
Well, it was actually longer than 30 seconds, because I was always under the impression that fair use, you weren't allowed to go over 30 seconds.
Wait,
I thought that was the rule with regards to fair use on YouTube. If you were going to stream unedited clips, it would have to be no longer than 30 seconds.
Well, so again, these are all guidelines. Like, it really doesn't. The length isn't too relevant. It's more contextualizing it in an overall body of work. So, like, let me give you an example. If I show like a minute of like the Super Bowl and I upload that, and that's it. Like, or 30 seconds of the Super Bowl, or 20 seconds of the Super Bowl, and I upload that, and that's it. Like, that's not, I mean, you're just straight ripping somebody else's IP. Like, you can't do that. But if you use like a minute of footage or whatever in an overall greater body of work where you're providing commentary on top of or around that clip, and it's contextualizing a greater body of work, then you have a stronger argument there. There is no like 30 seconds plus as the magic time limit where you're breaking copyright,
Okay, so I suppose we'll go into where I sort of disagree with it, and that is sort of the moral side of things, because I think on a technicality, you are correct in saying that's a DMCA. I don't dispute that. My issue is with regards to that technicality. It comes across very much like you've exploited a technicality to silence criticism, and the title was editorialized. It wasn't, it wasn't exactly just, this is a clip of Destiny stream. There was some kind of prevailing sort of narrative that was presented with the title of the video that Sargon uploaded. And I think morally, I think it was a strategic move on your part to silence that sort of dissent, because you saw it as smear.
Sure. So let's take a couple of things here. So one, we acknowledge that the debate in its entirety is posted on YouTube. Two, we acknowledge that I'm okay with people taking clips and adding commentary to them, right? That's totally fine, right?
Yeah.
And then there was a third point, but I forgot it. With the first two, like, oh, and three, I'm not an idiot, right? I understand how the Streisand effect works. I know that if I DMCA somebody as big as Sargon, he's going to make a huge fucking, stink about it. So with all of these things in mind, how is this really censorship? Like, the debate is already up in its entirety, right? I'm not like hiding that anywhere. People have made videos taking clips out of it and talking about it. I'm not DMCAing every single person that's doing that, or any other person that's doing that. And then I know that by DMCAing Sargon, I'm going to be bringing more attention to it. So I'm not sure if I really agree with like the whole I'm trying to censor somebody's opinion.
Well, it honestly comes across that you want to, because obviously I've heard stories with regards to the DMCA. Hang on a sec. Sorry, I got interrupted. But with regards to MCA, I mean, in order to file a countersuit, so a counter MCA in response or whatever it is, a claim, a counterclaim, one is required to give out their private phone
Ye.
number, and this is information that Sargon, from what I've been told by an anonymous source, did not want to give out in order to contest the claim. So he did not do that.
That is absolutely not true. Firstly, there are ways to get around this. As an example, when I filed DMCAs, I used the registered agent address under my business because I opened a business, because this is a business and I'm a professional and I operate online in a professional arena. Sargon should do just as much. Secondly, I seriously doubt that Sargon thinks that I'm going to dox him or leak his phone number. Why would I ever do that? One of the biggest parts of my personality online over the past 6 years is my authenticity. Why would I compromise that to leak a phone number of a guy living in the United Kingdom? Like, that's beyond stupid. The reason why Sargon didn't file a counterclaim is because he knew that he was 100% in the wrong. That's why he also didn't want to talk to me about it when we had our conversation, and I brought up the topic and I said, do you want to talk about the DMCA stuff? And he laughed it off and wanted to move on. It's because he knew he was completely in the wrong.
Yes, on the technicality, but however, I think what you did was morally incorrect, because this obviously the title of the video was editorialized, so he was creating perspective. Someone in the chat has said, for example, one of the videos was literally called "Destiny Thinks Nothing Is Wrong with Communism," and it was taken out of context just like the other clips.
So when you're editorializing a video, the video itself has to be editorialized. If I write an article about how horrible Sargon is, and then I post within that article a minute clip from his YouTube, but I re-upload that and put it on my own channel, I can't claim that that video is fair use now because I wrote an article around it. There has to be editorialization going on within the video itself, because that video is accessible without ever reading the article, right? And the video is...
Yes, but there is sort of a code of ethics here. I mean, with regards to the DMCA, I think there is a code of ethics with regards to, I mean, if I was in your situation myself, if I was someone who had that, it's just a, minute and a half clip of me being taken out of context without any sort of editorializing it, I wouldn't care, in my opinion. And I really don't understand why you so much about it. And you said it earlier, in fact. You said that it was very much an attempt to bring attention to the issue. It almost as if it was a kind of bad, or even every kind of publicity is good publicity in that sense. I can't remember the exact phrase, but bad publicity is good publicity. You know that phrase, don't you?
Sure.
Yeah. It seemed like a very sort of calculated move in order to generate conflict and controversy is good publicity. And
wait, on my part or on Sargon's part?
On your part, by filing the DMCA.
No, I don't do this kind of stuff. I would never DMCA stuff to file publicity. I know that some people are of the mindset that everything I do is to try to generate controversy or whatever, but I mean, I had plenty of controversy going on around other things. I didn't need to artificially generate some using Sargon's channel.
So why did you do it then? Why did you file the DMCA unless it was, based on that technicality? Because it really does come across to other people that it was done as a sort of way to get attention while at the same time protecting your narrative.
So firstly, I don't think it's protecting my narrative. Like, I think I have plenty of ways to view the debate online, and I've had other people make pretty slanderous videos about me that I haven't DMCA'd because I think that they are a totally transformed piece of content because they've provided commentary around it, right? So I don't agree that it was I don't agree that I was trying to censor anything. And then in terms of on a technicality, it's not really on a technicality. This is like a really cut and dried easy thing. If somebody clips minute or 30-second clips from a video that you've uploaded online and then re-uploads that, that's 100% not okay. It's just not. It's not. You'll always get DMCA'd. You'll always lose. You'll never win a counterclaim.
But why did you feel the need to then? Because let's say, okay, Sargon has broken the DMCA rules. That I'm not denying. So why did you feel the need then to file the DMCA?
Yeah. So okay. So going into that, I'm just taking issue with the terminology before that. But going into that, so here's kind of my problem philosophically. Okay. Sargon and this entire, I don't like to use political labels anymore, but I'll say it here, the entire right-leaning online internet community was very disgusted with what happened to PewDiePie. Sargon himself had made a video about this, and I think he even included the authors of the Wall Street Journal at the end of his video, telling people to like bombard them with emails or get them fired or whatever. He was very riled up over the PewDiePie thing, and the PewDiePie thing largely came across as people writing a story saying, hey, this guy jokes about Hitler shit, I don't think this is okay, right? So it struck me...
I disagree with that, but we will talk about that later if you want.
Sure. So it struck me as a tad hypocritical that Sargon was so irritated that people were taking PewDiePie's jokes out of context and then making articles about them to slander him, who would then straight rip clips from my videos and then post them onto his alternate channel, probably because he knew they weren't okay to post. He posted on his alternate channel, and then he put slanderous titles about things that he knows that I don't believe because we've had a 2-hour conversation in the past. So if somebody's going to go through all of that work to try to slander me, to misrepresent my opinions, and then to put it on another channel where he's going to get like 4 times the views because of the subscriber count, like, why would I let this person use my stuff for free? And he didn't even contact me or ask me to do it. Like, nah, that's a pretty easy DMCA on my end.
I think actually, no, there is a difference between what happened with PewDiePie and what happened with you, because with regards to PewDiePie, the libel that was pushed against him was far more severe. And also it cost him, what was the name of the studio? Playmaker Studio?
Maker Studios, owned by Disney. Yeah, I'm not arguing that I suffered the same consequences. Of course, his was more severe. I'm just saying that the situations are analogous to one another, right? As you have people taking things kind of out of context, quoting them, and then, you know, writing an article or putting it on a YouTube channel.
But Sargon isn't a corporation like the Wall Street Journal, for example.
Sure.
Okay, I'm understanding that on his second channel he monetized his content, but I don't see why you should be overly concerned about that. I don't see how that's your jurisdiction, because you said it yourself that you kind of wanted earlier. You kind of wanted the attention from it.
From DMCA?
Well, didn't you say earlier it was kind of a way to generate intrigue and interest? You said very, near the start, you said that.
I mean, I guess you can, but that's never my goal. I don't go around thinking like, all right, well, I'm going to DMCA this guy, strategically speaking. Like, the decision
I'm not saying it was the only justification by any means. I'm just saying you said that earlier, or something to that degree earlier.
I might have. I mean, I'll acknowledge the reality of the situation. I know that's what's going to happen. But my motivating factors are never because it's going to generate publicity or popularity. It was everything I just said. It was the idea that he was, after making a big stink about it happening to PewDiePie, that he was ripping clips, misrepresenting what I had to say, and then doing it all while violating my intellectual property.
But I'm with regards to, I think the difference between, you're trying to conflate two issues that are completely different in my opinion, because with regards to the PewDiePie thing, it was done by a corporation that is fairly well respected in the Wall Street Journal, and in Sargon's case, I mean, I actually think, going back to what I was saying earlier, I actually think in some respects it actually might have helped you in a sense, because he provided the links to your, from my recollection and from speaking to Sargon about it, he did provide links to the original content, the entire stream in its entirety. So you would so if someone wanted to see more of that stream, so your conversation with John Tron, they would be able to go and watch it, which... So he did source it. It's not like he said, this is my content.
Okay,
I own this.
So are we arguing from a legal or a moral standpoint? Because legally, this is totally relevant.
A moral standpoint.
So morally, when you link back to others people's content, if you ever watch your links, if you've got like Google, fuck, I don't remember the name of the plugin that you install on your site to track all the clicks or whatever. But if you watch
Social Blade,
no, there's a Google plugin for it. I have it right on my site. I can't remember it at the moment. But a very, very, very small subset of people actually click through to the next thing, right? If Sargon really wanted to hammer me or make fun of me for these things, he could have just as easily just posted timestamped links to my YouTube video and then added the same titles or whatnot without having to rip the videos from my stuff and put it on his own site. Like if all Google Analytics, that was it, yeah.
Wait, was it Google Analytics?
Yeah.
But what was your sort of original point? Because I was reading the chat there.
Oh, sorry. If Sargon really wanted to hammer me over some points and wanted to do it in as good faith as possible, there are a multitude of ways he could have done this. He could have messaged me and asked me, in which case I probably would have been like, yeah, go for it. People do that all the time. Even people I totally disagree with will message me sometimes. I'm like, yeah, knock yourself out, dude. He could have messaged me and asked me. Or two, he could have made any kind of commentary or effort whatsoever around the clips. If he would have added 30 seconds of talking afterwards, I would have left it alone. Or three, he could have just linked to my original YouTube video and not cut the clips in the first place.
Well, he did link to your original video.
No. Instead of clipping it and putting it on his channel and then linking back, right? Nobody or very few people are going to click on the link back, let alone watch the whole thing once they see it's 2 hours, right?
I mean, I agree with you that there's probably a better approach that he should have taken. But with the approach that he took, I don't necessarily see that as something that is morally deserving of being a DMCA being filed against him.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this because I keep saying that you don't think these are the same thing. I'm going to describe the PewDiePie situation and my situation. I'm going to use words that are applicable to both, in my opinion, and I want you to tell me to stop when you think I've said something that doesn't apply to both, okay?
All right.
Okay, so you have a party, okay, an individual or corporation. You have a party that is taking small quotes out of a larger body of work from another person that they're trying to damage, okay? They're taking these quotes largely out of context, okay? And then they're publicizing them, and they're making it sound like that person believes in something or is saying something that they don't actually believe in or they're not actually saying. Do you think that this is an unfair way to characterize what the Wall Street Journal did to PewDiePie or what Sargon did to me?
I think it's a fair way to characterize what the Wall Street Journal did to PewDiePie, because obviously what he was doing in his videos was very much satirical, it was very much in jest. It was actually to mock Nazis, whereas what you were saying, while it was probably taken out of context, it was something that you were saying with sincerity. It probably was taken out of context. I don't actually remember the videos.
Okay, so there are 4 different clips. On one of them, okay, me and JonTron were arguing about immigration and whether or not it destroys countries. I brought up the point that I think California gets more immigrants than any other country in the world aside from Russia, I think. And I asked, why is it that California's economy is thriving, is the most powerful in the United States if immigrants destroy everything? Sargon took a 30-second clip of that and titled it, "Destiny Thinks Mexican Immigrants Run Silicon Valley." Do you think that's a fair characterization or maybe just a slight mischaracterization of what I said? Or do you think it's a totally idiotic way of taking what I said to make some kind of inflammatory or slanderous statement?
I actually do think it's the former, because with regards to California, I think the Silicon Valley is it is the big moneymaker with regards to California.
It's not. California has a very diverse economy. I want to say that the Silicon Valley stuff is like 15 to 20% of it. It's a decent chunk, and it's obviously very good for the entire United States, and a lot of cool shit comes out of there. But California has a huge economy. It's not just tech over there.
You say it's a diverse economy, and this covers, what, 20-15%? Is there anything that is a larger percent than that?
Maybe not a larger percent, but we're talking about a difference between a majority and a plurality, right? The tech part might be the largest of all the individual parts, but it doesn't comprise over 50% of the state's economy. California is a very diverse economy.
Yes, but it is obviously probably the biggest contributor to the economy. And okay, there are other areas, but let's assess all these other areas. Actually, I mean, what have we got? I mean, do you have the statistics there? Because this isn't like my forte or my expertise. I'm just interested in looking at these sort of statistics where the money is being made and whether or not that's sort of a position where immigrants are generating that money, or even, you know, a huge portion of that money.
Hold on, I think we can Google like a nice little breakdown of like the economy.
I mean,
in California.
Honestly, like, just as a sort of general point, I'm probably not as sort of anti-immigration as people like JonTron or even Sargon are. I mean,
sure. Well, hey, wait. Before we get into these topics, just the central question was just, do you feel like he misrepresented? Like, do you really think that in my statement there that I mean to say that Mexican immigrants are running Silicon Valley?
No, but I think it was in jest. It was, a lot of his titles are satirical.
Okay, so, well, so now we've moved on from from maybe his titles just kind of aren't being generous, and to now his titles are just satirical? Do you think his audience sees the titles as satirical when he posts it like that, or do you think the audience? What about when JonTron? I'm talking to JonTron, and I say something along the lines of like, does it make you uncomfortable that that a lot of what you say is literally like white nationalist rhetoric? Like you have a lot of very hard ethno-state white nationalist people coming out to defend you, and then he fires back with at the time what I thought was a really random comment. He's like, well, what about the communists that support you or whatever? And that was like really weird and caught me off. And I think I said something like, what do you mean by that? Like, what's wrong with communism or communists or whatever? And from that point, and then he said something like that, and I said communism is mainly economics as opposed to like Nazism or whatever. Is usually more.
Hang on.
Yeah.
This is guilt by association on both sides. Guilt by association by JonTron and guilt by association by you.
Not necessarily. But I understand what you're saying. But regardless, Sargon clipped that and said he either said Destiny thinks nothing is wrong with communism, or it was something along those lines. And again, like, I'm a hardcore capitalist, far more than Sargon is and ever will be, okay? And he knows this. We've talked about this. Why would he make a clip of something making it seem like I'm pro-communism?
Actually, with regards to the timing, because you keep saying he's had this conversation with me and yet he makes that clip, I think actually the timing of those clips were when he uploaded those clips before you had that live stream with him. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was, but this was the second conversation I've had with him. I had another 2-hour conversation with him a few months ago, I think.
I don't remember that. Was it private, I'm guessing?
No, it was just a while ago, but I mean, this was probably more popular because of the JonTron stuff going on.
Okay, was it on your channel? Was it on his channel?
Because, no, it's on his channel as well. It was 5 months ago, so...
I'll just check that now, because I've not seen that, actually. This is news to me, actually.
It was a 2-hour, 18-minute conversation. I threw it up in the Google Hangouts. Oh, I also posted a picture of California's economy there if you wanted to look at it.
Yeah, talking SJWism with Destiny. Okay, I did not know, actually, that he had this conversation with you.
Yeah, so he knows of me, and he knows my opinions and thoughts. I'm a very capitalist person, like borderline libertarian on a lot of things, apart from some social issues. So, like, when he's making these clips, he knows that this is bullshit, right? So, I mean, it bothers me a little bit that he would so horrendously mischaracterize, like, what I'm saying. I don't know. There were 2 other ones as well. I don't know if people remember specifically what they were.
Well, let's pretend you're a third party. Let's pretend there's a third party watching that debate, and they don't know these things, so they don't know that you're capitalist. They haven't seen that stream that you did with Sargon on SJWism or whatever. Do you think that the way that you talked about communism in that stream came across as very supportive of communism? I mean, I'm not saying you are. Obviously you're not a communist.
No, not even in the conversation, because we literally talked about it. We didn't even talk about communism. I think I brought up communism for all like 20 or 30 seconds. If you walked away from that conversation thinking I was a hardcore communist, it's because you went in with an agenda and you either weren't aware of it or you didn't give a fuck. There's no way that you come out of that conversation thinking, oh, Destiny, he's a huge communist. Because again, we talked about it for like that clip that Sargon cut out was literally the only time it was brought up in like that 2-hour conversation.
All right, that's fair enough then. I agree with you then on that. That it was probably not, it was probably bad for them to suggest.
One of the the third and fourth one. The third one was So a lot of people are of the mindset that Europe is literally falling apart right now with riots. There's literally thousands of riots going on all across Europe, destroying it. And JonTron brought up as much. He was like, there's riots all over Europe. And it's like, what do you mean? I was like, so I countered with something like, dude, there's not riots going on all over Europe. Like, sure, it might happen sometimes, but it's not like Europe is falling apart. Sargon clipped that and said, Destiny thinks nothing is happening in Europe. Right, that was the third one, and then the fourth one was JonTron brought up the clip of the woman, and I think it was one of the DNC things or whatever, where there was a woman that said like white people need to shut up and listen to minorities or something like that, and I kind of explained where that statement came from. It's not quite as inflammatory as people make it sound. It kind of is, but if you watch the whole clip, it kind of makes sense. And Sargon clipped my explanation of that, saying Destiny thinks white people should shut up. So these were the 4 clips that Sargon posted on his channel.
I agree. I'm someone who is personally very critical of Sargon. I mean, I've made videos criticizing Sargon. I've called him in the past, I've called him a populist apologist. for an apologist for right wing
Well, he is a populist, isn't he? What do you mean by just apologist? He's pro-Trump, pro-Le Pen, pro-Brexit. Like, these are all populist politicians and ideas.
I don't think he's as pro Le Pen, because actually in the stream that we had, with regards to, we talked about Le Pen's manifesto, and there are a lot of things that both of us disagreed on. I think he agreed on a little bit more than I agreed on, and I think there are a couple of points where I agreed on things on Le Pen's manifesto that he disagreed on.
I don't buy that intellectual dishonesty from Sargon. I think that's a farce, and I don't think it's fair to let him get away with it. He always tries to ride this line where he wants to pretend that he's liberal, but then he comes out attacking viciously anybody that criticizes Trump. He comes off as very pro-Trump. He comes off as very pro-Brexit. He comes off as very pro-Le Pen in the video that he made, because immigration is like literally the most important fucking issue to this guy, even though he lives on
in France. I agree in France, but not so much.
He comes out again and again and again for, I hate to use the label, but for right-leaning political thought. How long can you say I'm a liberal while supporting people that are as far on the right as possible over and over and over again? I don't buy that from Sargon. I don't know why he's allowed to get away with that so much.
I think with regards to the zeitgeist currently that is facing, and this is a problem that I have, and you'll probably agree with me on this, but the current political zeitgeist as it stands is to make fun of SJWs, to make fun. It's very easy to create an argument that is against the SJWs and get approval for it. So you can just go like, lol, Jeremy Corbyn, Islam sympathizer, SJWs, and you'll get a fuck ton of likes on YouTube. Whereas with in order to get the same amount of likes and traffic to a video criticizing the right wing, it has to be very sort of intelligent and very calculated. If you just go in and say,
no, this isn't fair. I mean, when Sargon is making fun of SJW, Sargon is criticizing caricatures of left-leaning opinion. He's never attacking legitimate ideology on the left. He's always taking the most extremist screechers he can find on the internet and then throwing them onto his channel as an example of how enlightened he is. You can do just the same with people on the right. You can find screeching lunatics from Kekistan and throw it on your channel and make fun of it. You don't have, it's not like the right requires.
Well, I disagree with specifically with Sargon, but I think there are definitely people that do that, like Paul Joseph Watson, Stephen Crowder. I mean, this is what I call the retrograde right. Where you've heard the term regressive left, haven't you?
Yeah.
I've sort of come up with my own term called the retrograde right, which sort of covers sort of the social justice warriors of the right. So we're talking about people like Paul Joseph Watson, Stephen Crowder, Stefan Molyneux to an extent, although I think he can be somewhat intelligent, even if he's a bit batshit. Lawrence Southern, outlets like the Breitbart, the Daily Mail, the Daily Express, sort of things like that, in essence. So I'm very critical of those things, and I have in the past accused Sargon of being an apologist for those outlets because he defends these outlets, but to the same extent, I don't necessarily. I think it's a bit jumping to a conclusion. He said it's kind of very much like a purity test in the sense that we're sort of jumping to these conclusions about his character when he hasn't really. I honestly think Sargon should do more to criticize the right, but
he won't, because he's built an entire fan base off of it, and it's not financially prudent for him to do so. If you want to see examples of other people that have done this, go take a look at Thunderfoot's channel, who had an explosion in popularity shitting on SJWs. Thunderfoot is similar to Sargon in that he makes a lot of content shitting on SJWs, but the difference is Thunderfoot is actually a left-leaning person, unlike Sargon. So when Thunderfoot comes out and he makes videos that are against Brexit or against Trump, his entire fan base revolts and shits on him. If you go and Google Thunderfoot Trump or Thunderfoot Brexit and you look at the thumbs downs on those videos, it's insane. Sargon would never do it because he realizes that he's built a fan base of extremist right-leaning people, and he's not going to say anything to upset them because it wouldn't be financially prudent to do so.
Well, let's look at this. There's two things I can say to that. One is with regards to not wanting to accept the extreme right, that's not completely true, because you've seen, I mean, I've read, I've actually delved into fucking Poll, and people's opinions on there are mixed to negative from what I've seen. They think he's trying too hard with the Kekistan thing. The alt-right hate his guts because of the whole gay porn assault that he did on Twitter, that got him banned eventually. And I forget the other point that I was going to make. It was.
Can you think of any large videos that Sargon has made recently that would piss off right-leaning people?
I'll answer that in a sec. But
Okay.
the other point I was going to make was this is his job, and I don't think it's necessarily fair to say he's not necessarily left-leaning, as opposed to this is his job. He wants to put food on the table for his family, and he wants to, in order to do that, he needs to satisfy a lot of the retrograde rights that are following him.
Gotcha. Well, hold on real fast, because this guy in your chat is like super ass blasted. How is Brexit right-leaning? I think that Brexit is characterized by a few pretty right-leaning ideas. Protectionism of blue-collar jobs protectionist policy seems to be a right-leaning meme at the moment. Trump in the United States has talked just as much about tariffing different companies to protect lower-class jobs. Sargon has mentioned this as well. The extreme xenophobic anti-immigration sentiment seems to be kind of a right-leaning thing as well, that protection of your traditional culture and all of that. They seem to be pretty right-leaning ideas, and it seems like Brexit was largely revolving around things like immigration and the protection of blue-collar or lower-class, lower-paying work. But sorry,
and I'm actually someone that's this might actually surprise you, but I think all my followers know this, but I'm pro-Remain. I mean,
do what?
I'm pro-Remain. I'm against Brexit. So for a number of reasons, I'm pretty vehemently opposed to Brexit. So that's something I completely disagree with Sargon on. I've had conversations with him about that. I've had conversations with other people about that as well. And I've still, I've sort of softened a little bit, because I was sort of initially in that sort of European federalist sort of train of thought. But then I sort of shifted gears to realizing, okay, this is never going to work in my lifetime, because there's too much opposition to it and it's a bit too much of a pipe dream. So what I want now, essentially, the reason why I'm supporting the Liberal Democrats in Britain now, they sort of think of them as a more left-leaning libertarian party in America, I think is the best way to describe them. So they're a bit more sort of pro-immigration and publicly funding the NHS and education and that thing. They're sort of center-left, which is probably around my sort of ideological position on the political spectrum. So personally, when it comes to Sargon, I think his videos I think he personally is center-right on the political spectrum. I think he's wrong to say that he is center-left. I think he's just afraid to admit that, in a sense, because I think he's built up a lot of credibility of being that sort of left-wing, the left-wing voice that speaks out against the woes of the left. I think that's...
But if he ever spoke in favor of any left-leaning issues, I guess I would give him more credibility. But yeah, I don't disagree with your assessment that he's probably center-right.
Well, he has. If you look at the stream he had with me, he's pro publicly funding the NHS, like I am, with that sort of a more left-leaning position. He's pro.
But that's always that's always like the biggest differentiator between I've noticed that in people in the United Kingdom. You can get them out. This is like a really funny meme. If you get very right-leaning people, very populist people in the United Kingdom talking to the United States who will agree on every single thing, and then as soon as healthcare comes up, there's this massive divide. But I think that has more to do with the fact that once you've given socialized healthcare to a country, I don't think you can ever take it away. And I don't know if people are going to come out en masse against socialized healthcare. It's just a hard thing to do,
Yeah. And with regards to, he's also sort of pro public education. He doesn't want, I think he's against things like grammar schools, which I'm also against. Honestly, I'd be interested to hear what he thinks of the fox hunting ban. I think he'd support keeping the ban, because he doesn't see, and he's made videos in the past condemning the Tory party. I think actually in one of those videos he does condemn the fox hunting ban. So yeah, I'm afraid. But in all seriousness, that's something 84% of the country. I think that number has gone down a little bit, but at one point quite recently, 84% of the country supported keeping that ban, and the Conservative Party that he currently intends to vote for on Brexit alone. I mean, there's probably some other issues as well that he agrees with them on, but with Brexit, he agrees with the Conservatives' approach more than anybody else. but I can, he's been critical of the Conservative Party in the past. I think it should
So I mean, like
probably.
when you say being critical of the Conservative Party, and the big issue giving me is fox hunting, are there more
No,
important
no, 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 no.
ideas that?
No. Welfare. If you look at him, he absolutely. Do you know a politician called Ian Duncan Smith?
No, I don't.
He is literally a walking bell end. Like he literally looks like a penis.
Okay.
but and he is one as well. Like in his attitude, just he's absolutely ripped into him. He's a Conservative MP. He's ripped into. Yeah, he has made videos in the past doing that, and his fans were, he got a very sort of mixed reception from his fans, which is interesting to note, actually. So, yeah, and he tends to bring that up as an example now where, oh, well, I have criticized the right before, look. And I don't know, like, I appreciate, a lot of the things that he brought up in that video are very intelligent, very well, thought out. And some of his criticisms of the left are as well. But, yeah, I can see that. I don't want to really jump to the conclusion that he's. I think you're being a sort of a bit more conspiratorial on this issue than I am with regards to Sargon's intentions. I think it's best to. I think he's a decent guy, in all honesty. I've had a conversation with him. He seems like a nice enough guy. I don't have any.
Yeah, we're not we're not discussing the niceness of Sargon though, just his intellectual.
Yeah.
He's either very intellectually dishonest or a little bit not intelligent enough to dive into these realms. I mean, if you've seen anybody do teardowns of some of the articles that he reads and horrendously misrepresents, it's pretty embarrassing. The shallow level of understanding that he has of a lot of issues. One of the things that we've argued about over and over again is the difference between correlation and causation, and his inability to understand things like marriage and its impacts on people's wages and shit. So I mean, I don't know. I have very, very, very low opinions of Sargon. I'm sure he's a nice dude. I mean, he's always been friendly when I've talked to him. But I think that he's pretty cancerous in terms of contributing to online discourse. I think that he feeds into that right-leaning narrative pretty hardcore and that anti-immigration, xenophobic, anti-Islam shit. Like he capitalized on that.
Actually, I think I'd say that's a good topic to talk about in general, and because my channel, and this is something that I sort of appreciated you bringing up as well, but my channel is sort of focused on being an intelligent place for discourse for people of any kind of political position, whether it be alt-right, whether they're communists, whether they're anywhere sort of in between that,
Mm-hmm.
It's basically sort of somewhere for people to sort of vent their views. I'll challenge them on certain views, and I'll sort of say, okay, I don't agree with you there. Sometimes I'll, the chat will challenge them on views. I'll bring up stuff from the chat or something that's been mentioned to me on Twitter. So it's not like a Dave Rubin format where you just vent sort of thing, where it's just like a free platform. I sort of do challenge these people on their views a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to the extent where it becomes like a full-on fledged debate, like how sort of, if there is a point of contention that we're not going to get around, we just sort of agree to disagree and we sort of move the conversation forward, which I've kind of done here, admittedly.
Sure.
So with regards to the sort of intelligent discourse, and the reason why I appreciate someone like Sargon, and to an extent Stefan Molyneux, is because even if you disagree with them, and this is something I have criticized Sargon in the past for, because he has done this in the past, and I've lambasted him for it. I've made a video about his video directed towards Michael Moore, which I still think is absolutely horrendous, one of his worst videos ever. But he does, even if you disagree with him and Stefan Molyneux, they at least sort of come across as intelligent. They're able to create an argument. The argument is there. You can see why they feel that way. You can see what they're trying to construct. There is an attempt at creating an argument now, which is more than you can say for people like Paul Joseph Watson, Stephen Crowder, Lawrence.
I think that these people are all very much the same, and I would lump them in with Sargon. There's two different ways you can arrive at a certain thought, right? You can have a logical process of constructing thoughts, okay, that lead you to a reasonable conclusion based on what you've discovered, or you can have a narrative that you will constantly try to squeeze every bit of evidence into. So I have talked to people that are wildly different than me, okay? The last guy I talked to was an ethnocentric, an ethno-state purporting race realist, okay, that wanted to enact euthanasia, or not euthanasia, you like peaceful eugenic cleansing of the country, okay? But this guy, the way that he approached and constructed his thoughts and his ideas was done very dogmatically. I appreciated it. He was very reasonable. He was very logical and very consistent. Sargon is somebody that... Are you familiar with like Rush Limbaugh or Glenn Beck in the United States? Maybe not.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them.
Okay, so
I think that's a bad comparison.
No, I think it's a perfect comparison. They have a certain type of ideology, and they define themselves as reactionary to the movement that they hate. So everything they find, they'll try their hardest to fit it into whatever narrative they believe. If you want a good example of this recently, Sargon just stuck his foot all the way down his throat when he criticized a random politician for coming out in support of council housing or whatever, right? Not realizing that the woman that he was criticizing was literally somebody that had lived through it for growing up, and then was a journalist that specialized in reporting on these issues, right? And he didn't even apologize for as much. He made a snarky little Twitter comment and moved on. And he's done this time and time again, where he's just horrendously misquoted an article or completely misunderstood.
Well, actually, I remember that. This was a video, Sean and Jen, who I don't respect in the slightest. I think he's a very stupid person. But this was a video Sean and Jen responded to, and I think on a technicality, Sargon is correct in saying, because this woman was, rather than living in a council house, she was homeless. So there is a difference there.
She lived in council housing, though.
But she was homeless, wasn't she?
Okay? Wait, what's the
Well, what's the difference? I mean, homelessness can constitute a lot of things. When I sort of think, the first thing I think when I think homelessness, I think people living on the streets. So,
but she lived in council housing as well. She wasn't just homeless. She was homeless for a time, but she also lived in council housing.
What about sort of refuge housing? I mean, I honestly don't know enough about the subject. And honestly,
what I'm saying is that Sargon looks really bad throwing out these ad hominems, which is what he largely does to people on the left because he's not interested in intellectual honesty. But he did it to this woman who had been involved in these systems that he claimed she had no experience with. When she called him out on Twitter and said, "Hey, I've lived in council houses. If you want questions, just ask me." Sargon said, "Well, they must have been worse than the ones that I saw." As a guy that's never lived in a fucking... Why would you say something like that? I don't know. It just seems pretty stupid to me.
I agree. I'm not a huge defender of Sargon, in all honesty. I mean, as I've said, I've completely ripped him on certain occasions, but I don't know enough about that case to really comment. So honestly, if you want, I mean, because you've obviously been doing a lot of, whether I agree or not is irrelevant, because you've obviously been doing a lot of sort of digging and searching on Sargon.
Not as much. It's usually people bring me up clips and whatnot. I try not to waste my time watching a lot of these kinds of people's videos because it rots the mind after a while. But I mean, I know that Sean and Jen dude puts out a lot of videos, and the people in my fan base will link me clips every time Sargon says something fucking stupid, which is unfortunately
Sean and Jen is an absolute idiot. To give you an example, this is something I was talking to Kraut and T, the moderator, on that stream, who actually ended up starting this whole conversation indirectly. But I was talking to him, and he, what Sean and Jen managed to do is there were 90 cases of arson in Germany committed by refugees, I believe. I can't remember the full specifics, but there were 90 cases of arson, and he magically made it turn into free. He is incredibly intellectually dishonest and disingenuous.
Wait, where?
He turned 90 cases of arson into 3 cases of arson, and Kraut is going to make a video soon responding to that, because Kraut is one of the more sort of popular ones. Don't agree with everything Kraut says. I mean, we've had a big argument recently over sort of social justice and YouTubers and a lot of it. And
not to put you on the spot or anything, but do you have a video where he does this? Do you know which one it is? And I'll look into it later. I'm curious.
Let me find it. I'm not subscribed to Sean and Jen.
Or you can throw it to me afterwards on a Twitter DM or something.
But I think I'll lose intelligence watching him. But honestly, there are sort of intelligent people in the sort of more SJW well, I suppose that's a bit purgative, I should say, more progressive circles, like, for example, I think H-Bomber Guy and Libertarian Socialist Rights, even if I don't agree with them on a lot of things, they're clearly intelligent people. They're not idiots. Whereas with someone like Steve Shives, he's a complete moron. And Sean and Jen, at least he doesn't go around blocking people like Steve Shives, but he is a complete moron, in my opinion. He's done nothing to... I remember I made a sarcastic tweet. I like I made a tweet sarcastically mocking him, and he thought that what I said was a figure of speech, was actually literal, and I compared him to, if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, you know the Drax.
Yeah.
I compared him to him.
Gotcha.
Like the nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too quick.
Sure.
Kind of thing. But
a lot of people are saying for that arson video that the reason why he took it down to 3 was because a lot of those arsons were literally just like pan fires and shit. I haven't watched the video though, but that's just what I see a lot of people saying.
I don't know. I'd have to watch it again because, but honestly, like what I was going to say earlier is, I think you should probably have another conversation with Sargon. And if
I don't
you
think
want,
he's ever going to want to talk to me again after the DMCA shit, because he was so lost. He was like an old man with dementia wandering through that process. So I don't think we're ever going to be talking again after that.
Well,
I don't know if you noticed, but he tweeted out. So he tweeted out a tweet, okay? And I don't think he read it when he tweeted, but he tweeted out a copy paste from an email that he got from YouTube. And it said, by the way, your channel is temporarily disabled because of these DMCA strikes. If you don't do anything about this, your channel will be shut down on the 21st. So he tweeted that out, and I don't think he realized, he didn't actually read it, because when the 21st rolled around and his channel got shut down, he acted very surprised. And then he made a bunch of false claims against me, saying that I had filed extra DMCAs on videos that were already taken down, right? I don't think he realized that that channel was going to be shut down because he didn't actually read the thing that he was so excited to copy and paste into Twitter. And the whole timeline is available if you go and watch it. I've got links and whatnot on that.
Okay. But what I'm sort of suggesting is, because I don't consider myself like a friend of Sargon. You know, I talked to him, you know, a few times on Twitter as well, but I think something that would be beneficial for both of you, I think, is to have, I can sort of moderate the chat if you want. Like, I can sort of moderate the conversation, because I don't really have a dog in this fight. I mean, I've defended Sargon a bit in this stream, but in other cases, I've agreed with you on certain things, as well as having my own sort of separate criticisms of Sargon. And I don't have any ill will towards you or anything like that. But what I could do is I could try and get a conversation between the two of you where you sort of talk these issues out. We sort of discuss these things, and if Sargon feels, do you feel confident enough in your opinions that you're willing to discuss them with Sargon?
Yeah, I would, but I don't think Sargon is intelligent enough to discuss most of the things that he talks about.
Okay.
So, here's the problem. Let me give you an example of one of the central points of disagreement. Okay?
Can I just say one thing?
Okay, sure.
So you're confident. Now we need to wait if Sargon is confident.
Well, but it's not a matter of confidence. I'm confident in my elementary understanding of physics, but I don't know if I'm going to win a debate against like the world's most intelligent flat earther.
But it's not about winning the debate though. Like, why is it about winning to you?
It's not a matter of winning. It's just a matter of having a fruitful and productive conversation with somebody that understands like basic ideas of how statistics works. Right? Like one of the central.
No. I'm going to have to disagree here, because it's very much a subjective matter.
No, it's not. It's very much an objective matter. What do you mean by subjective? An interpretation of stats or correlation, causation? What do you mean by subjective?
Well, stats can be interpreted in multiple ways. I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah, but none of the ways are the ways that Sargon does it. Like, so
okay, that's a bit vague. I'm actually just gonna be right back. Quickly, just gonna nip to the toilet. But if you want to interact with the chat, be nice to him. Chat, don't call him autistic.
Sure.
Well, I'll come down on you. No, I won't. But please, just be civil.
Sure. Not a typical Tory dude. He's real fucking mad in Fox's chat. You see this dude? This guy is ass blasted as fuck. Destiny is about on the same level as Steve Shives and Black Hitler. Nice. Damn, Destiny, you're salty. Yeah, dude, I'm so salty. How many times do you think not a typical Tory has said cucked in this conversation? Oof, this is the peak of intellectual discourse. Oh, go fuck yourself, Destiny. Oh, Destiny's being so salty. Wow, you're a piece of shit. You look autistic. You look nice today. Oh, thanks, Fisherman Fred. Is incest still okay, Destiny? I don't know. Do you have any clips of me saying it is? I don't think I've ever said that before. I'm not sure what the implication is. You should talk to Crowd and T. It sounds like another Naked Ape spinoff. I think I'll have to pass on that one. Destiny won't read this comment, Peppy. Damn.
I am back. But I was thinking there actually with regards to because I know what's going to happen at the end of this stream. People, your fans are probably it's going to very much create a sort of I'm concerned that there might sort of be a tribalistic sort of schism where your fans are like, oh, well, Fox doesn't know what he's talking about. And then people who are critical of you, who just subscribe to be critical of you, are just going to be like, oh, Destiny got owned and all that stuff, you know. And I don't think that's fair on both accounts, because I think on some respects, I think you held your own well on the whole DMCA thing. And I admit my sort of argument is one that has come from emotion, and you're obviously not an idiot like people like to present you out to be. You're obviously an intelligent enough guy. I mean, the fact that you're willing to have this conversation with me is, you know, says that, you know, to me initially, that says something about your character initially, as well as that video that you made.
Sure. So, here's one of the. This is kind of what I'm talking about in terms of Sargon. This is I think we've argued about this like an hour each on both of our discussions. Okay, so marriage. Okay, marriage is an interesting social phenomenon that exists. Okay, that is decently well studied. If you go and you read about marriage, okay, here's something that you find out. Wealthy people tend to get married. People in a realm of financial stability tend to get married, okay? This is a fact of life. You can Google right now, wealth and marriage, okay? And you can find a plethora of articles that talk about this. This isn't like a contested or a debated topic, okay? So Sargon, being unable to properly interpret statistics because he either doesn't have the academic background for it or chooses to misinterpret them, I don't know which it is, decides to read something like this and thinks that, okay, married people tend to be financially successful, so if you get married, you will become financially successful. This is an issue that we spent like an hour arguing 2 different times, where he insisted that the reason why the black community in the United States was having problems was because they wouldn't just marry
I'm actually just going to cut you off because I'm thinking of sort of changing. I mean, no offense, but I am a bit sort of tired about talking the sort of Sargon point over and over in the stream. I actually wanted to talk to you more sort of about general politics as well.
Sure.
So...
I was just making the point that why I don't think conversations with Sargon are very fruitful, because it doesn't seem to interpret like different things correctly, and you just get into like these really weird.
I personally found it very fruitful. You know, I've been on this stream 2-3 times now, and you know, I found talking to someone that I disagree with on certain issues and challenging myself to grow as a person by you know, challenging Sargon, you know, on a certain things, then hearing his response to certain things.
Sure, but so can I just speaking to that, I agree. I think that talking to people and challenging your assertions and all that, I think are really, really good. But again, to go back, like there are 2 types of people, right? You've got people that use a reasonable, logical thought process to construct ideas, and I think these people are always worth arguing with. I'll argue with anybody that I find is reasonable in terms of their construction ideas. But then you have ideologues or demagogues who only have things that fit narratives, and then they push that. So like, I don't think you can have a constructive conversation with somebody like Paul Joseph Watson or Alex Jones, right? Because these are not reasonable people that construct their ideas in reasonable ways. There's not much you can really take from these conversations, in my opinion.
Okay, sorry, I got interrupted. I followed a bit of that sort of conversation, but we'll sort of... I do think it's important to... Well, what were you saying? What was the point that you were making there? Like, it's important to talk to people that you disagree with.
I think you can talk to people that disagree, but they have to be reasonable people that... When I say reasonable, they have to use a logical form of construction for their thoughts. It can't just be a demagogue or a reactionary or somebody pushing a narrative, right? Like, you're never going to have a reasonable conversation with a Brianna Wu or a reasonable conversation with a Paul Joseph Watson or an Alex Jones, because these are not reasonable people.
Yes, but I think Sargon is different from those kinds of people. I mean, even you have sort of said earlier that Sargon sort of presents himself differently, even if it is a...
Wait, I don't think I said that. I think he's a reactionary. I don't think he presents himself any differently than that. I think he's just a reactionary.
No, because if you look at the difference, if you look at the difference between him and Paul Joseph Watson, for example, I mean... You could, I suppose you can make the argument they're saying similar things ideologically, which I don't know. That's debatable, but you know, I guess you could say that if you wanted. But if you watch Sargon's videos, he makes intelligent arguments. He is capable of expressing himself with a certain kind of etiquette. Not all the time. When I've called him out when he doesn't do that.
Can you? So not to put you on the spot, but can you give me a single intelligent argument that Sargon has made? that you feel was constructed intelligently, that came off as being an intelligent, rational argument?
I think a good video of his, even though this is one I personally disagree with, but a video of his that I thought was intelligent. It was a reply to Richard Dawkins saying the British people have spoken, and it was something about Brexit. I think that was an intelligent and respectable video from him. So if you want to watch that later, I think that's a good an example, and that's something I disagree with him on. I thought that was a really good video by him, and
Right,
other good videos by him. Answers for Libertarians I quite liked. I mean, that was a bit sort of more less formal. That was a bit more of his. But he is willing to sort of criticize sometimes the other side. He's not a complete partisan, like, for example, Paul Joseph Watson, who is a sycophant for Trump, who is a sycophant for his agenda. I mean, something that actually surprised me was the reaction that some of them, including Paul Joseph Watson, Stefan Molyneux, they were very critical of the missile strikes in Syria. They still, fell into the usual traps of blame the neocons for manipulating Trump into doing this. It's not Trump's fault. Trump now has no agency. The neocons have taken over. But it was at least interesting to sort of see the gesture from them. And obviously, there were still idiots continuing to defend Trump, even though it went completely against their own narrative and it was completely hypocritical. But I think these people have limits, and I think people have limits on this kind of thing to an extent. And even someone like PJW or Lawrence Severn or something like that, they have limits on these kinds of things. And Sargon's limits, I think, are more. They're sort of a bit harder to understand, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, for what it's worth, I had a 2-hour combo with Lauren Southern as well, and I thought that she was pretty similar to Sargon, but...
I've not seen that. I've never talked to Lauren Southern, but she's gotten arrested, actually. Well, not arrested, she got detained by the Coast Guard in Italy because she had flared. Yeah, it's just vigilanteism at its finest.
Yeah,
but
saving Italy.
But I think we should move the conversation on from Sargon, and we should sort of talk about the sort of political zeitgeist right now, because I suppose I sort of asked some questions about you. What do you want? What do you want by doing these political videos? And I've made a video. What am I fighting for? I mean, I've obviously got the Mega Man cartoon picture as the thumbnail, but what are you fighting for? What do you want from doing these videos?
So 2 things that are kind of related. One, I want people to be able to construct thoughts in rational ways, okay? I don't really care if I agree with you or disagree with you. I just want to make sure that people understand that they are being reasonable or rational or logical or consistent when they construct their thoughts, right? That's a big thing for me. And then the second...
Let's talk about that first one, and then we'll go on to the second one.
Sure.
That is a good thing, and I completely agree with you on that. And that's something similar to what I fight for. But I think I'm a bit more loose on that. I think I'm a bit more sort of skeptical of myself. I'm sort of thinking when I make these things, well, maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe there's, something that might make this argument work and my argument not work, for example. So when you're sort of calling out people for logical inconsistencies, it's something called the fallacy, which is just because a statement is a logical fallacy does not necessarily mean it's incorrect, for example.
Sure, but if the statement is constructed in a fallacious way, I think it's a worthless statement. I don't think it's worth talking about, right? It has to be logically consistent.
Okay, sure, but I can at least appreciate it if there's effort behind it. If it's just hot air...
I mean, a schizophrenic can put effort into a political ideology, but that doesn't make it valuable or worth respecting, I don't think.
Well, it's deserving of more respect than someone just going, I think right-wingers are evil. I think left-wingers are evil. Okay, why? Because somebody told me on the internet. I mean,
do you have respect for flat earthers? Do you have respect for flat earthers?
Do I have respect for flat earthers?
Yeah, like the flat earther ideology?
No, I don't, because that's been scientifically proven to be absolute nonsense.
Well, I mean, I don't know, we could talk about it if you want. I think I can make some pretty good arguments for flat earth.
I mean, if you can make good arguments, I'll at least sort of respect you for that, you know? Like, as long as you're. It's just generally a sort of an etiquette thing, I think, in my opinion, when I'm sort of talking about, like, that's the reason why I don't hate Stefan Molyneux,
Well,
even though
I'm
he's.
sorry. When I say hate, I don't mean like you like viciously hate a person. I just mean like when we say hate, I think it's synonymous with like disapprove of or see no value in a particular ideology. So when I say something like I hate flat earthers or I hate flat earth ideology or whatever, we're not talking about like if I saw a flat earther on the street, like I would, I would splash them with a puddle of water driving by or something, right? Like
Yeah,
I
sure.
just mean like I don't respect the ideology, right?
Yeah, sure. But this is sort of semantics. But
Well, no. It's very important because I don't think you should ever like hate a person for their political beliefs, probably, right? But you can hate political ideologies. I hate a lot of political ideologies, but I don't hate my mom, right? Who's an extremist right-leaning person. I think that's an
okay,
important distinction.
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the second thing that you the second reason why you do what you do?
I want people that are talking about issues to be talking about important things related to these issues and not stupid things relating to these issues. So, for example, and this kind of goes along with number one, for example, immigration, okay? There are valid arguments on both ends of whether you should be pro-immigration, anti-immigration, pro-globalism, anti-globalism, maybe. There are arguments to be made on both sides of these issues, okay? Protecting my culture and protecting my sovereignty, these are not legitimate discussions. These are stupid discussions held by 14-year-olds online that don't know what any of these words even mean, let alone what their implications are. So if you want to have a discussion about whether or not immigration is good or bad, restricted or unrestricted, right, there are valid arguments to present on both sides. But this idea that, like, Islam is going to destroy my country and shit like this, these are not real arguments to be having, and it's just a massive waste of time to devolve conversations into these kind of topics, I think.
So you're against sort of hyperbolizing things. So
Absolutely, yeah. That's where that riots in Europe. Like there are a lot of people, especially in America, that literally think that that Europe is falling apart. That Sweden, people are getting raped all over the place. That women are having to walk around in burqas, and that Germany is the new the rape and arson capital of all the.
I agree with you to an extent because this is. I suppose you've heard of the whole culture, the sort of subculture of the blue pill, red pill culture in this
Yeah.
sort of community, and the blue pill culture is sort of everything is fine in Sweden, everything is fine, it's a utopia, and then the red pill culture is like everything is awful in Sweden, it's Armageddon, and I'm of the belief I call it the purple pill. I'm sort of a purple pillar myself. Is Sweden definitely has problems. These things that are being brought up by the sort of red pillars. They definitely exist, and they definitely are issues. But I think they're being blown out of proportion in many ways, and that's my personal stance on it. So again, it does
Blanca's.
come down to etiquette. I mean, I would rather have a conversation with someone I completely disagree with ideologically on almost all aspects, rather than have a conversation with someone who, agrees with me on a lot of things, but is just a sycophant. Because I think I and that other person would be able to grow by having that conversation with them.
I guess I disagree if the other person doesn't construct their thoughts in reasonable or rational ways. I don't think there's much to get. I mean, we can try out sample conversations if you want.
Yeah, and if I notice that, I'll challenge them on it.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I don't notice that. I'm not a master debater by any means. I mean, honestly, the reason why I'm sort of live streaming more isn't to debate people. Like, I know you've sort of had a lot of debates with people and things like that, and I'm by no means I don't even think I'm a very good debater because I've not really done it enough to really hone my craft in a sense. I just like having conversations. I like to think in some respects I'm a good listener, but if I hear something that I think I can prove is wrong, I will challenge somebody on that. I think that's fair.
Sure.
But I suppose what else is there really to sort of talk about? Is there any sort of have you seen any of my stuff? I guess because we sort of arranged this on Thursday. I don't know if you've seen any of my stuff or if you just
No,
gone into this blind.
I just heard people tweeting. I just heard people tweeting, so I had no idea what to expect.
I mean, what did you sort of expect from like me and our community, if you will, like from the initial sort of
At this
you
point,
know
I have no expectations. I've talked to radically different people. I've gotten into 2-hour conversations with literal extremists like communists. The most recent conversation I just had was with a radical Catholic that was for eugenics. Like, I have no expectations anymore when I go online.
but what do you think of this sort of conversation? Like, what do you think about having this sort of conversation with me? Do you think this has been beneficial? Do you think this has been an interesting conversation? Do you think this is because I think it's been an interesting conversation in many ways. Like, what's your sort of opinion on it?
Yeah, sure. Conversations can be good. Sure.
Yeah, I'm talking about this one in specific.
Well, I mean, we talked about things. Wait, what? Like, what? So, what exactly are you asking me? I'm sorry.
Like, do you think having this stream with me today was beneficial? I mean, do you think you had did you how can I put it? Like, did you feel as if this in some way benefited me or you in any kind of slight way?
Yeah, sure. I think it's always. I mean, I don't know. I enjoy talking a lot, and yeah, we talked about some things that we disagreed on. So, I mean, at the very least, hopefully, you understand my point of view for the DMCA stuff some more, right?
What was that? Sorry.
At the very least, I think I was able to get out my view of like the DMCA stuff a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. And people can watch that, and I'm looking at some of the dislikes here. I mean, I actually had a drunk stream last night, and I had to go. There's always like a couple of people that always dislike my streams, like even like my non-casual sort of drunk streams as well. I don't know why it is, but honestly, the people sort of dislike it. Just tell me why. Like, if you gave me, I would be happy if you just told me where I can improve, where I can, because I'm open to all sorts of critique and criticism, and I'm open to being proven wrong. I mean, oh god, now they're all coming in. I probably shouldn't have said that, but whatever.
Yeah, I think that might have been a bad idea.
Yeah, but I'm not too bothered about likes and dislikes at the end of the day. I'm just interested in hearing people's perceptions on why they disagree with me, so I can potentially grow as a person. But I don't really think there's all that much to talk about really anymore, because like I said, this stream was formed very much off the cuff, so not based on a lot of information, and I think we had a decent conversation considering that. So is there anything else you want to say before I end this?
No, unless there's anything else you want to talk about, I don't think I have much else to go over.
Yeah, I
Do you
suppose
ever do
we'll
viewer
end it.
call-ins?
Yeah, I do sort of drink streams with subscribers. I sort of talk with people, all the time on Twitter as well. I interact with my audience. But yeah, it was good having this conversation with you, man.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
So,
It was enjoyable.
right, so I'll end the stream now. And
Wait, you sure you want to end it? You don't want to do viewer call-ins now at the end of this? Engage with your audience?
I guess I can. What I tend to do is the format that I follow when I tend to have a one-on-one guest in, and I probably should have done it with you in all honesty. It's just I'm a bit concerned that people will come in and start throwing. A lot of people are watching this sort of the. I am a bit sort of concerned that you might get a bit of sort of abuse thrown your way, and
I'll be
because
okay.
I don't.
I've dealt with it in the past. I think you should do a call-in. I think there's a couple people that seem like they have a lot of stuff they want to say. I want to hear what not a typical Tory has to say. He seems like he's got a lot of interesting things to contribute to the conversation.
So I'm going to give him the link because I've talked to him a few times. He's an interesting guy to talk to, even if I disagree with him on a lot of stuff.
Sure. There was another dude in here too. I don't remember what his name was, but yeah.
And then I'll make it public. I'll make the
oh, don't do that. I wouldn't do that. Wait, make the link public to the
Hangout. Yeah, that's what I've done as well.
no, I wouldn't do that right now.
Okay. That's what I tend to do at the end of streams. I just make it public to the chat, and then people just join in, and we just shoot the shit about random shit.
Oh, the Renovated Lee guy too. He seemed like he really wanted to talk as well. Yeah.
Okay. What is your Twitter? The renovated. What's his name? The renovated something.
Renovated Lee. Renovated, spelled like renovated, and then Lee. One word.
Okay. Also, don't you play? I know you play League. This is just a question. I know you play League, but what's your opinion on Dota? Because I'm a Dota player myself.
Yeah, I mean they're all MOBAs. I mean they're different games. What do you mean? I don't pass like value statements on like I don't think one is better than the other. They're very different games. League, HOTS, and Dota.
But yeah, not a typical Tory. I sent you a thing through Twitter, and I don't know what this other lad's Twitter is. Oh, he doesn't have a mic. Okay, that's fine. But you guys can sort of have a conversation, and then I'll probably end it.
Sure.
Oh, he says he's happy to do it in chat anyway.
That isn't there like a 40-second delay with the YouTube live streams, or is that not true?
Yeah. You know what? I think I'll just end it now. Actually, but
oh, the one not a Tory dude didn't want to come on.
Yeah, he said he'd rather do it in chat. But if you honestly, you guys
the
can
guy that
talk
wants to. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll just throw back and forth with him for a little bit if he wants to.
Yeah, you can talk to him like through Twitter, or you can do it in like the comment section of this video. You know, whatever. Just I've got to be. I mean, honestly, I've got my. It's my cousin's birthday today. He's come down, and I was gonna go down his house and just chill for a bit.
Okay.
So anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and yeah, not much else to say really.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, buddy.
Yeah, there we are. I'm gonna head now to the cousin's party, so I'll catch you later, man.
All right, I'll see you later. Bye. Fuck, I wanted to. This dude's been needling me all chat. I wanted to get him on fucking voice, dude. Fuck. So, okay, here, let's talk about this conversation real quick. So, one of the reasons why I value the logical or rational patterns of putting together thoughts is because if you don't value this, then all the conversations just kind of become like really meh. So like this guy wasn't stupid or anything. I don't hate this guy, and I don't think he was an idiot or anything like that, right? Or any mean shit you guys are gonna say. But like if you don't have a value for these like reasonable ways of constructing ideas, then everything becomes permissible, and all of a sudden all ideas are valid and nothing is like really anything, and then we're just kind of float. It feels like we're on who's that Ruben dude? I feel like I'm watching a Ruben episode where the guy just kind of comes on and talks and talks and talks, and it's like, okay, well, I don't really care much about anything, and then we just kind of, and then it feels really fruitless, you know? Where's the reactionary Catholic dude? I need to set up. I think I'm ready. You should watch the Sean video. Dude, I don't care.
Now, there are a bit over 100 arson cases on this map, so let's have a look at a few. Here's one in Duisburg. In July, in Duisburg, saying that wrong, some trash was set on fire in an uninhabited building by an unknown suspect. He's described as very thin, 35 to 45 years old, and as having dark skin. So that's arson, but is he a migrant? He wasn't arrested, and the police don't know who he is, so he could be anyone. There's no mention of him being a refugee or a migrant. He could have been born in Germany, who knows, but that's just one pin. Another one in Soltau. Some teenagers set a fire in the woods. They're between 13 and 15 years old. Southeastern European look, apparently, but again, they weren't caught, so there's no way to know if they're migrants or refugees, or neither. Whoever included this pin on the map is just assuming that they're refugees based upon their described skin colour. In this case, in Schneeberg, a refugee home had to be evacuated because of a triggered fire detector. but there's no indication there was actually a fire. In this case, in Wendlingen, I am butchering the names of these German towns, I'm sorry, a refugee burned some toast and set the toaster on fire. Now, nobody was hurt, but there was a lot of smoke. Now, is a small accidental cooking fire that injures nobody and causes minimal damage really worthy of being called arson? I mean, we've all burned toast before, haven't we? You know, my dad once set the cooker on fire making bacon. Is he an arsonist? You know, I'm having kind of a hard time being afraid of this refugee and his burnt toast. Now, before I'm accused of cherry-picking a few examples out of the entire map here, I have went through every single one of these so-called arson cases on the map. So, cue the music. A cooking fire, a cooking fire, a cooking fire, another cooking fire, another cooking fire. Firecrackers set off a fire alarm accidentally. A cooking fire, another cooking fire. Improper disposal of a cigarette, another cooking fire, another cooking fire, another cigarette. Improper use of candles, no injuries there, amazingly.
This is normal
Another
speed.
cooking
this
fire,
so slow.
Another cooking fire. There was an accident in a kitchen when someone was cooking that caused a small fire. Another cooking fire. A possible electrical fault. Imagine that, that's arson now apparently. Electrical faults. Another cooking fire, another cigarette. Improper usage of a candle, again. Another cooking fire. Improper disposal of wood embers. And a bunch more cooking fires. Lastly, I'd like to look at my favourite cooking fire story. A Syrian in Ovenstadt left a pot on the stove and it went on fire. And the reason this is my favourite one of these stories is because there's a picture of the offending pot. I guess not much happens in Ovenstadt, generally. Now actually, almost half the pins in this map are for fires that were either started accidentally or have unknown causes. And remember, some of those intentional fires were started by people who are not known to be immigrants or refugees because they weren't caught. They were just started by people who witnesses say were not white. And if we look at the arrest statistics here, we see that more than half of the news stories on this map make no mention of an arrest taking place, either because the fire was accidental or because the suspect is unknown. So how many pins on this map are news stories about a refugee or migrants actually being convicted of arson? Well, you can count them on one hand. The problem for the XY Einzelfall people, though, is that this doesn't look as scary as this.
Oh, there's only 3 on the map.
Well, maybe if we scroll out far enough. Oh god, look, Germany's on fire. So anyway, let's take a look at robberies and thefts. Now...
Okay. Alright, can I leave? Are we good? I have to... What was it? Oh, I need to go buy food for Aslan. Aaron doesn't have extra food for him, and now Aslan is fucking mad as fuck. The newest window feature is here. It's ready to install. I thought I already installed this shit. Alright, I love you guys. I'll be back later. Have fun. Peace out.